Australians aged in their 20s and 30s could now end up living long enough to live forever, according to our next guest.
I think that it's a really exciting time to be alive.
It suddenly erupted yesterday, at least 10 people. One scientist said it's the most dangerous incident he'd ever seen in 30 years.
Experts tell us this kind of explosion is a rare event. It takes a perfect storm of circumstances for it to happen.
Our smartphones are literally our lifelines these days in every single part of our lives. Obviously, for us as adults, but for kids, teenagers, those phones are quite possibly changing their lives, right, Chris?
That's right.
And our pockets are now these new magical medical devices. They're riding Moore's law, the power of computation that keeps doubling every 18 to 24 months, which is why our smartphones are more powerful in computation and speed and price performance than the best supercomputer from MIT in the 70s.
Well, I think we're already cyborgs because, you know, when you go to a party and someone asks you something that you don't know, the first thing you do is look up your phone and Google it, right?
Right.
So as an input mechanism, our fingers is the communication limitation on the speed.
Yeah.
But being able to access all that information, having a supercomputer in your pockets these days, is one concept of cyborgism.
So we're entering an era where our digital exhaust will soon be continuous, and we can use that in smart ways.
One of the experts said that smartphones, fill the necessity of sensation seeking, right? Which is why some people experiment with drugs. So they feel that you get the good stuff, right, from this, whether it be games or communicating, social media, likes, whatever it is, provides the good stuff.
We already live in a cybernetic society, and installing computers in our brains is not far off, he says. He made the comments this week at South by Southwest. He calls it technological singularity, when humans gain super intelligence with the help of technology. He says the evolution will make us funnier, sexier, smarter. Here's why we may want to take his word for it. The guy has a history of making correct predictions. Out of the 147 predictions he's made since the 1990s, 86% have been correct.
At least you wouldn't lose it. Pretty good odds.
You know what I mean?
Ray Kurzweil needs no introduction. He's one of the world's leading inventors, authors, and futurists.
This is somebody who really is not just an author and an inventor, but somebody who thinks about the future in ways that I can't even possibly comprehend.
Ray has been described as the ultimate thinking machine and the rightful heir to Thomas Edison, no less.
That's right. The latest research saying that a drug called metformin, which is used by diabetics, that actually increases the lifespan of mice by around 30 to 40%. And now they've proceeded to human trials. So the advancements in this sort of technology is advancing faster than a lot of people can keep up with.
Well, it is among the most personal, private medical information you have, and there's a bill in Congress being discussed that would allow your employer to access that kind of information about your body.
Workers who choose not to participate could end up paying thousands of dollars in penalties.
Would allow companies to require employees either submit to genetic testing or pay more for their health insurance.
They could be faced with a situation where if they want to have access to more affordable health insurance, then they're going to have to cough up their genetic information.
I mean, right. If it's in your brain, you can't lose it, which is 90% of my day.
Right. And I mean, all that stuff. Sign us all up, right? No. According to this man, he says it's kind of already happening with glasses.
Liz Parrish, a final question. Whatever happens with these results and these clinics that you're hoping to set up, do you believe that genetic augmentation is inevitable in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this is where all of medicine is going. So remember, the first biohacking that we did to our body was things like immunizations and antibiotics. Now we have the opportunity to design our evolution and upgrade our body. I'm a human prototype for the future of health. Obviously, we're not quite there yet.
The advanced technology and artificial intelligence, if you see some of the things companies like Google and others are taking forward at the moment, it's quite impressive.
Is going viral around the world, and you've seen them right here on 7 Action News.
They are the mom and son who together transitioned into father and daughter.
While it may sound like a unique story, Eric and Corey say they're not alone. They've met many other families where both a parent and a child are transgender.
The homecoming king and queen are dead. Long live the gender-neutral royals. The University of Minnesota is scrapping the traditional titles in their homecoming court in the name of inclusivity.
A time-honored tradition getting a controversial update. A California elementary school changing its father-daughter dance to a family dance in an effort to be more inclusive.
It's not just the University of Minnesota. The University of Wisconsin Stout is giving out now Spirit Awards, and Appalachian State has committed regicide. They won't have a homecoming king and queen either. They're going to crown the top of the rock. So this is something that is beginning to become a bit of a trend.
So, think exponentially. Remember that things are moving very, very quickly.
A medical center in the UK has just received approval to create babies using the DNA from 3 parents.
Now, Britain's first 3-parent babies are on the horizon after Newcastle University was given the green light to carry out IVF using the DNA of 2 women.
There are also people who would say, look, you start changing the genetic makeup of a kid by donating genes from somebody else, because these batteries have little genes in them. Aren't we starting down the road to designing kids taller, stronger, faster? Those are the big ethics worries.
It was the subject of an NBC News special investigation.
Border agents are increasingly seizing cell phones and demanding passwords of travelers, including U.S. citizens.
Channel 2's Michael Wooten tells us what federal officers are doing at the Peace Bridge and elsewhere, both born in the USA.
Customs and Border Protection officers held them for 2 hours, took their cell phones, and demanded their passwords.
It just felt like a gross violation of our rights.
But they complied. But a few days later, it happened again.
This time, Akram refused to give over his phone.
One officer grabs me from behind, grabs me by the throat. Another officer comes in front of me, grabs me by the legs. Third officer reaches into my pockets and pulls out my cell phone.
She says the law at U.S. borders
allows the government to inspect your phone or your computer. No warrant needed, just like they can look into your luggage. Not only that, whether you give them your password or not, they can make a clone of what's on your device. Until recently, it was a power rarely used.
Really disappoints me, and it seems to have gotten worse since January 20th.
"2017 is gearing up to be a blockbuster year. More people stopped in February than the entire year of 2015. So what's going on? Two intelligence officials tell NBC News the increase is driven by two factors: frustration that law enforcement failed to detect a string of domestic terrorism attacks, and intensified rhetoric by Donald Trump about radical Islamic terrorism. Many threatened with arrest if they didn't comply.
Those in charge were caught unaware by the intensity and volume of the rain. People living on the country's northern coast are used to downpours during rainy season, but rainfall has been 10 times the normal volume.
Dozens are dead after 2 suicide bombs exploded in Syria's capital, city of Damascus. The years of violence have killed close to 500,000 people.
What is going on at the borders has the potential to be a real digital dragnet. I think that this really puts at risk both the security and the liberty of the American people.
And part of that future, in your mind at least, is something known as the singularity.
For out of the fundamental questions that she was asking about how bacteria cope with viruses has come a technology that's making it possible to edit genes in plants, animals, and potentially in humans.
They're not enhanced at the moment, but you know, most people, if they leave their cell phone, they feel like they're incomplete.
The resulting field of research that she started is now developing at dazzling speed, with exciting new aspects emerging almost weekly.
We'll connect our neocortex wirelessly to the cloud, just the way your cell phone does it. Most of the things you do with that do not take place in the phone. They connect to the cloud. The cloud is pure information technology. It is doubling in power every year as we speak. And so we will be a hybrid of biological thinking and non-biological thinking, which I believe has already started with these devices outside our body, and we'll become smarter. By 2045, we'll expand our intelligence 1 billion-fold. That's such a profound transformation that we borrow this metaphor from physics and call it a singular change in human history.
Так родилась идея трансцендентального трансгуманизма. В то время я высказал предположение, что примерно будущее человечества будет связано с переходом человека к неочеловеку и постчеловеку. И что этот переход будет не только технологическим, технократическим, он будет связан с созданием новой метаэтики, новой культуры.
Four letters: A, T, C, G. For you, they probably don't mean much, but for any genetician, they are the base, and they are the base for our DNA.
В связи с этим, я думаю, что вопрос даже не в технологиях. Технологии, проект «Аватар», переноса сознания в альтернативное небелковое тело, о которых говорилось, они обязательно появятся.
With those four letters, when you put them in a different order, you are going to express a different protein and a different code. Basically, those four bases are life, the symbol for life.
Вопрос только приложения усилий научного сообщества и вложения инвестиций. Я думаю, что прежде всего нам нужно заявить о том, что человечеству пришло время вырабатывать новую парадигму жизни, новую парадигму существования, новые смыслы, ценности и цели, и заявлять о них как можно больше больших трибунах.
Just to finish this program, it was funny for me to find this link, but with the technique that Emmanuel Charpentier and our team developed, which is called CRISPR-Cas9, it's basically the idea of being able to cut a gene and sequence and put it back together in a different order, or add something in, or like basically, like she said, edit some music.
Хватит стареть, есть по старинке. Надо идти к более высокому состоянию. Надо менять свою жизнь в аспектах, в том числе и преодолевать будущее каждого человека и человечества в целом связано с переходом к божественным существам. И если мы сейчас выразим такое намерение определить четко парадигму нашей дальнейшей эволюции на третье тысячелетие, и мы заявим, что да, ученые рекомендуют задуматься всем главам государств, всем политикам, всем правительствам, сидящим в Организации Объединенных Наций, об эволюции, о том, что мы должны эволюционировать, и эта эволюция должна нас вести в сторону Бога-человека.
And actually it's kind of stitching something to make out life, a new life, or a more beautiful life, or to correct mistakes or things like this.
Исходя из сказанного, можно ли сейчас рекомендовать создание единой религии? Я думаю, речь идет не то чтобы о создании единой религии, а о создании единых принципов, на которых могут существовать все религии. Поэтому имеет смысл говорить о едином мировоззрении для всех религий.
Something that seems, of all the three, the most unlikely to ever come to pass. As I was explaining to some of the guys before service, when I was growing up, my parents said in a social setting there are two things you should never talk about. One was politics and the other one was religion. Now, I haven't paid attention to either one of those instructions, but the point is that we know that these are such contentious issues generally that people, if they want to get along, kind of avoid them. And yet, the Bible really very clearly tells us that there will be a unification that will come in the end times around a consensus of religious theology as part of the bigger plan to bring one government and one economy. So saying that, it's not surprising that in the book of Revelation, when we read about the beast, who we often refer to as the Antichrist as well, he basically exalts himself over everything that is called God. In other words, he basically says all other religions are now moot. This is the only religion that has validity, the religion that sets me as the object of worship for mankind. And that's why, if you want to talk about what's unique about Christianity from every other religious system or philosophy that's out there, it can be summarized in one simple word: it's grace. If you studied religions, one of the things you come to understand, as I have done, that no other religion has a basis of grace. It's all about what you do in order to merit the goodness or blessing of God and hopefully the saving grace or the salvation of God. It's amazing within the last few decades that proponents for such an idea have come from every quarter. In fact, Brock Chisholm, who was the first UN delegate, the UN World Health Organization, chairman of the UN Health Organization, when it first formed, made this statement. He said, "To achieve world government, it is necessary to remove from the minds of men their individualism, loyalty to family, traditions, national patriotism, and religious dogmas." In fact, Robert Mueller, who was the director of the FBI under George Bush, said, "We must move as quickly as possible to a one-world government, a one-world religion, under a one-world leader."